Hi, I'm reading an article by our Australian Labour Party's Senate leader, Penny Wong. And this is the article she wrote on the published on the October 15, 2014. The title is, "What Could a High-Quality China Free Trade Agreement Look Like?" In the article, she mentioned our Prime Minister Tony Abbott has been soft when he was negotiating with Korea, which included the investor-state dispute settlement provisions, opening the Australian government to compensation claims by Korean investors for changes in local policies. Well, that is a bad decision. I think no government should allow businesses to sue the government because of policy change. So any inclusion of clauses similar to that will be unacceptable to any government. So that included, if China want to include such a clause, I think Australia should not sign such an agreement. This is not of a national security reasons. There's no way a corporation should sue a government. That is not possible. Of course, if a corporations feel unjustly treated by a government, then the corporation can sue. But in terms of change of policy, then any consequences to the change of policy is part of the business risk that a business take, and you shouldn't allow a corporation to sue the government, no matter from which country. So that is wrong. Okay, in terms of her suggestion to how to negotiate with China, first of all, I agree with her comment that setting a time limit will put unnecessary pressure to our negotiators. That is not a good move. So we should have an open-ended timetable so that we will take it as long as necessary to reach a trade agreement, because trade agreements are subject to change, subject to modifications, and there's no hurry anyway. So if we can make a good trade agreement, go ahead. If not, then we will just continue negotiating. She also suggested that we should look for a deal which is New Zealand plus. That means we should receive better status than New Zealand. Well, if we can achieve that, that is good, because after all, Australia has a larger agricultural capability than New Zealand, and presumably the amount of agricultural products that we can send to China must be larger than New Zealand, and as such, at a volume level, we should have a better treatment. I would support that argument. And the second part is on industrial goods. Any FTA must eliminate or significantly reduce Chinese tariffs on Australian manufactured products. Well, I think it will be easier to negotiate a common standards to every country. Let's compete on a level playing grounds. So any country having a significantly better treatments means there's a bias in the economy. In a free market, we want the economy, the productivity to drive the growth rather than artificial policies. Obviously, from Australia's point of view, the lower the tariffs, the better, because we can enter the market easier. But I would argue that the best to everybody's part is a common policy. That means, if China has a tariff on a certain products, then the same tariffs should apply to every countries, and we need to negotiate that as well. This is also the policy for Australia as well. If we want to impose a tariff on a product coming into Australia. We want to make sure the tourists is the same to every country. The other one is for services. There need to be commitments to remove discrimination and open the Chinese market to Australian services, ranging from banking and insurance to environmental and mining services. In terms of banking, I myself do not support banks to be privatized. From my point of view, banks should be national-owned, country-owned. The banks, especially those banks which involve in printing of currency. The right to print currency or the rights to issue currencies always rests with the sovereignty of the country. It shouldn't be given to any banks. But at the same token, banks should be allowed to open branches in every place else in order to facilitate commercial activities. So in that sense, I would agree that China should open up its banking sector to allow foreign banks to open branches there and conduct commercial activities. So there are two issues. I may be mixing them up. I don't know whether the trade agreements dealt with which part of the regulations. This will require a non-discriminatory application of Chinese regulations to Australian businesses compared to their Chinese competitors. Again, I would fully support that kind of a position. It is always that a business should compete based on its competitive advantage and productivity, and with artificial policies limiting some activities of some companies isn't good to economy. On investment, the agreement should encourage greater flows of capital between China and Australia. Well, if Australia is willing to open up buying of farmlands by Chinese capitals, I think Chinese will just rushing in. So there is another issue here is whether we sell the land or rent the land. I think it will be better for us to actually rent a land to the Chinese on a longer term period, say 20 years, 30 years, or 50 years, rather than selling the land itself. Because after all, land belongs to the country. So it shouldn't be able to allow foreign interest to buy land. But obviously this is easier said than done, because after all, people can just become Australian like me and then use foreign money to buy, and then who can tell whether my money comes from Australia or from overseas. But again, that depends on the moral values every citizens put on to themselves. So I'm also speaking in the interest of Australia here, because I'm now an Australian. So I think land, although Chinese want to buy them, but I will prefer to rent them to them rather than sell that to them, so that there's a time limit on which they can use the land. Of course, when the contract close to the end, there's always a possibility to negotiate new contracts. That's the whole point. So that's my little comment for Miss Penny Wong. So if you listened, then please listen to my suggestions. If not, I'm just expressing my opinion. Okay, good luck. Bye-bye.